The Pentagon Challenge is the hardest challenge in Football Manager. The aim is to win the top continental competition in 5 different confederations. Oh, and you have to start unemployed with 0 coaching badges. So today we're going to embark on the quest to become the greatest manager of all time. This is me, and as you can see, I'm a terrible manager. I've piled all my available points into adaptability and attacking, so hopefully I can settle quickly and teach my new players how to shoot. We have all of these leagues available to manage in, but it's not like Man City are going to give me the job, so we need to start small. I'm targeting jobs in Africa and Asia, and luckily for me, there are a ridiculous amount of them available, but we need to make sure we find the right one. I began applying and talking to the media to try and get my name out there, and then the first invitation to an interview arrived. Tihad Athletic Sport, based in Casablanca, are in Morocco's 3rd division. It would be an excellent first job. The first question was about my inability to speak Arabic, which I must admit might hold me back. But I told them that football transcends language and everything will be fine. Then they wanted to know if I'm comfortable working with limited resources. I'm not, but I told them that I would be. They're also expecting me to finish in the top 4. But if I've learned anything from job interviews, it's that you always need to give 110%. So I told them we could win the league title. And that summed up the interview, so now we wait and see. But as my inbox was flooded with news of other managers getting jobs at other clubs, I was getting worried that no news was bad news, especially as I'm not even favourite for the job. But my blatant lies and over-promising worked. I'd convinced the board and was offered the job, which of course we accepted. There is one issue though. We only have 12 players, and 2 of them are goalkeepers. We're at the wage budget limit and we have no money in the bank account. Plus, I'm the only staff member. And as it turns out, if you have 0 staff, you can't filter players who are interested in signing for the club or not. So in my quest to try and find some players, I've got a long list of players starting off with Kevin De Bruyne. Okay, so there might be more than just one issue. Despite our shortcomings, we are favourites to come 4th this season. So if we can add a few players to the squad, we might actually be in a shout of winning the league. Fortunately, I was able to find a left back and a left centre back to field 11 players in their preferred positions. But we're now over the wage budget, we can't sign anyone else, so we'll have to start the season with just 14 players. There was a real buzz around the empty stadium for our first game of the season against Mansoria, and the crowd went wild as we hit the crossbar early doors. Then on the 13th minute, we scored the first goal of the epic quest to complete the Pentagon Challenge, as our 5'9" towering left winger got on the end of a cross to give us the lead. This then opened the floodgates, as moments later, Zahawi scored a sublime curling effort, Ascari thundered home a free kick, and then Zahawi scored a beautiful goal in the 25th minute. It was a perfect first half if you ignore the goal the other team scored just before half time. But then we added a 5th just past the hour mark to put the game to bed, pick up all 3 points and sit proudly top of the table. Now, given that we are going to be hopping around from club to club throughout the Pentagon Challenge, I don't want to get too attached to players. However, Saul, who scored our first goal of the game, is already one of my favourites. Just ignore the downward arrows. If he could lead us to promotion, it should be able to lead us to a better job. And lead us he did. He scored 11 goals in 12 games as we won 9, drew 2 and lost 1. A remarkable start to the season given our lack of players. This puts us 2nd in the table, one of the 2 promotion spots. But how can we be doing this well with only 14 players? Well, it turns out we have been very lucky. There are only 5 professional clubs in our league, and we're one of them. So whilst we only have 14 players, it turns out they're a heck of a lot better than everyone else's players. So if we finish in 6th place or below, it really is a disgrace. However, we didn't win either of our games in January, meaning with 12 games to go, we had 2 teams right on our tail. So we need to keep winning, but I don't really have an incentive to keep winning. You see, I was only given a 1-year contract, and when I asked the board for a new one, they told me they couldn't afford it. But I managed to keep the team scoring goals and winning games. So by the time we got around to the final game of the season, We sat second in the table, level on points with Tamara, and ahead by 1 goal difference. Win and score more goals than Tamara, and we get promoted. It was the perfect start to the game, as Saul put the ball over the top for our striker Sissoko to bury his effort within 5 minutes. He then thought he'd doubled our lead, but it was judged to have been offside. With no VAR, we didn't get a replay to see how close he really was. Ascari then hit the crossbar from a free kick. We'd had so many close chances, but we just couldn't add another goal. So we went into half-time 1-0 up. The good news is Tamara are currently drawing, so as it stands with 45 minutes to go, we are getting promoted. And it looked even more likely to happen when Ascari scored a peach of a goal from the edge of the D. Moments later, we grabbed a third from a great passing move, meaning that Tamara now had to win 5-1 in order to overtake us. And they gave it a good go as they went 2-1 and then 3-1 up. And then we completely forgot how to defend and conceded a goal. This now meant with 10 minutes to go, it all hung in the balance. But as the clock ticked down, results stayed the same, and we'd earned ourselves a magnificent promotion in Season 1. But there is an issue. Our budget next season is the exact same as this year, where we could only afford 14 players. The only reason we've got promoted is because we're one of the only professional teams in an amateur league. So when the board finally offered me a new contract for next season, I declined, and I walked away. Personally, I don't think we're going to do very well next season, given that we can't afford more than 14 players, so I'd rather leave on a high than get sacked in 6 months' time. I think that looks a lot better for us and gives us a better chance to get a better job down the line. So I left the club, and I was now a free agent. So heading into Season 2, 4 jobs have piqued my interest. Both the sides relegated from Morocco's top division are available. So given I've proved myself in the 3rd division, surely a top job in the 2nd division would be on the cards, and I should be able to get those jobs relatively easily. However, the team 3rd in Morocco's top division, Tanger, also have a job available. I don't think I'd get it, but we may as well apply. And then over in Thailand, the Buriram United job is also available. They finished 5th in the top division this past season. So I applied for all of them, and to my surprise, Tanger were the first one to get back to me offering a job interview. First of all, they asked me about my lack of experience. So I did admit I hadn't been in the game for long, but I had won a promotion. Then they asked if I'm ready to get stuck into a club that has big financial issues. Surely it can't be as bad as Tihad, so I told them I was ready. Next up was the interview at Sualam, one of the 2 relegated sides from Morocco's top division. Their main angle was having a manager who could achieve their targets. So I promised them I would meet every single one. Then they really wanted me to commit to a long-term deal. So again, I promised them I would. I mean, what are they actually going to do if I decide to leave the club? Sack me? However, the 3rd Moroccan club, Fez, didn't even offer me a job interview, which is fine by me, because one of the clubs did offer me a job. And before Buriram could even get back to me, I had an offer from Tanger, who had just finished 3rd in Morocco's top division. Obviously, I said yes, and we're now managing in the big leagues. This time we have a large team and actual staff members. I got our best players arranged in a 4-3-3, but we need to get rid of dead wood and find some better defenders. However, the financial issues that they spoke about might get in the way of some deals. And it also means they can't afford to send me on a coaching course. So over summer we built a competitive team led by Ismail Kafi, who just scored 10 goals last season, and the side is also captained by Reda Jardi, who should be providing a lot of assists. But our first game of the season is in the preliminary round of the CAF Confederations Cup, Africa's version of the Europa League. The club qualified for it by finishing in 3rd place last season. If we win this, it doesn't count towards the Pentagon Challenge, sadly. For that, we need to win the CAF Champions League. To make sure we're in that competition next season, we've got 2 routes. Either we finish in the top 2 of the league, or we win the Confederation Cup. So we took this competition seriously, and at home we beat Interclub from Angola 4-2, with Kafi scoring our 2nd goal with a powerful shot before we then completed the tie a week later. Then we had K Sports from Senegal, where Kafi scored the opener in a 3-0 win away from home, and then a 2-2 draw in the second leg sends us to the group stage. Now we can focus on the league, where we are predicted to finish in 6th place this season, but of course our target is to finish in the top 2 to qualify for the Champions League. However, we had a mixed start to the season, but we eventually got into our groove in October and November. Our captain, Redder, is our top scorer with 8 goals and 7 assists, which is already better than his total from last season. He also scored the 3rd goal in our huge 3-1 win over favourites for the title, Wydad Casablanca, which leaves us 3rd in the table after 11 games. We should also be able to progress from our Confederation Cup group alongside Pyramids from Egypt, as we should be able to beat Namungo from Tanzania and Asante Kotoko from Ghana. So we put a lot of effort into our Confederation Cup games and we won our first 3. However, it hugely affected our league form heading into January. But luckily for us, other teams around us also dropped off, meaning we somehow sit 2nd place in the table. But our next 2 games were against 3rd and 1st place, which could be season defining. Well, we bottled a 3-1 lead against Beni Mellal, whilst Wydad Casablanca got revenge on us for our win earlier on in the season, which saw us drop to 6th in the table. Luckily, we did get back to winning ways, including a 5-2 win over Namungo in the Confederation Cup that sees us qualify from the group in 2nd place, ahead of Pyramids, who had a very disappointing campaign. The issue was, everyone else in the league was also winning. So we stay 6th place in the table, 5 points off 2nd. So it feels like our best shot of reaching the Champions League next season is by winning the Confederation Cup. So we need to put in a great performance against the Kaiser Chiefs in the quarterfinals. Well, we bottled a 2-goal lead to draw the first leg 2-2, despite our superior match stats. So it only felt fair that we dominated the away leg and won the game 3-0 to progress to the semi-finals. But after a 3-3 draw at our place, it's the end of the road, as Swallows from South Africa proved to be too strong by scoring twice and winning the semi-final 5-3 on aggregate. So with 6 games to go, we need a miracle to finish in 2nd, or somehow get the Wydad Casablanca job. However, with just 12 points from an available 18, that surely won't be enough to claw back a 6-point gap. Wait, what? It was! We managed to finish in 2nd place, level on points with 3rd and 4th, but with a better goal difference. Absolutely incredible scenes that everyone else completely capitulated. And the season isn't over yet. We've been given some very lucky draws in the cup, beating 2 teams from the 2nd division and 2 teams in our league who are near the bottom. So now we're in the final against the team who are 5th in the 2nd division. Also, big up to Tihad for not getting relegated. I was certain they'd be rock bottom when we left. But given our opponents, surely this cup final was ours to lose. Very early on, we hit the post, which was the first of many warning shots in the opening 20 minutes. But then we got serious, where of course Caffey scored the opening goal of the game to give us the lead. He then turned provider for our 2nd goal, which was turned in by right winger Lopez, giving us a 2-0 lead at half time. Truth be told, we never looked like losing the game, as Redder came close and another chance was blazed over the crossbar. But we marshalled the second half brilliantly to bring home the cup for the team and for our first trophy of the challenge. Unfortunately, it isn't the Champions League. The entire season has boosted my reputation massively, which makes me think getting better jobs down the line will be way easier. However, we are going to stick with Tonje next season, but some of our key players won't be. Centre defensive midfielder Kane and right winger Lopez are going to be leaving the clubs at the end of the season. We're only allowed to have 3 foreign players in the squad, so those 3 foreign players need to be our very best ones, and these guys just aren't. So they're out the door. So whilst I do plan on staying at Tonje in season 3, there are a couple of clubs in Africa I would be open to moving to. Wydad Casablanca have won the Champions League 3 times and are by far the best team in Morocco. In Egypt, I'd go to 12 times Champions League winners Al Ahly, or to Zamalek, who won this season's competition. And in South Africa, I'd head to Sundowns, Orlando Pirates, or Swallows, who beat us in the Confederation Cup semi-finals and just won the final against Asante Kotoko, who of course we played in the group stage. But obviously, because they're always winning, these jobs aren't going to come up very often. Plus, they might not take me seriously because I've not been on any coaching courses. Currently, Tonje still won't pay for me to go on one, even though we have reduced the debt. Our two best signings over summer are new ball-winning midfielder Ayman Azil, who has just been let go from Borussia Dortmund, and right-sided inside forward Abdella Farah. So I thought all of our business was done pretty early doors by bringing in a load of free transfers, given that we couldn't pay any transfer fees out for players because we're so broke. But that was until Emirates Club from the UAE put a 1.2 rising to £1.5 million non-negotiable bid down for star player Reda Jardi, who got 18 goals and 20 assists in all competitions last season. We're going to miss him, but we had to say yes to that. So off he went for big money, clearing the club debts. But there is one big issue. I was expecting to be able to pay £1 million for players with the transfer fee we brought in. It turns out the board are only giving me 5% to spend. So we have to be pretty frugal with the players we want to bring in. And luckily, we found Ismail El Harrach in the second division, and we signed him for £50,000. Of course, he's not as good as Reda, but it's the best we could do given the circumstances. However, as we prepared for the new season, I spotted that the Al Masri job has come up. Now, it's not Al Ali or Zamalek, but they came second in the Egyptian top division last season and are in the Champions League. The Egyptian League is the best in Africa, which means we're going to have better players and more money. Their wage bill, for example, is almost 4 times bigger than ours. So I applied for the job, and they gave me an interview. Their big issue was that I hadn't managed in Egypt before, so I told them it had been a dream of mine to manage in the country. Then they asked me why I wanted to move from Tanger, so I told them I was looking for a new challenge, which is kind of true. And in what seems to be a theme, they then asked me if I was able to manage a team in considerable financial trouble. I mean, I've just sold a player for £1 million plus, so I think I know what I'm doing. But Al Masri didn't think I did know what I was doing. So they turned me down, and we stay at Tanger. Hopefully by the end of the season, Al Masri will regret their decision. So in the Champions League preliminary round, we spanked AS Arta from Djibouti 9-1 in the first leg, and then 6-1 in the second leg for a convincing 15-2 aggregate win. Then, weirdly, in the Confederation Cup, they have the first round and then the group stage. But again, we got through it pretty easily against Azam FC from Tanzania with a 3-1 home win and a 0-0 draw away. This season, we are predicted to finish in 5th place, but of course, our aim is the title. Both of our new wingers got off the mark early doors, but of course, it was last season's top scorer, Kafi, who led the scoring charts for us in the early season. Our only loss so far was to Wydad Casablanca, which means we sit just behind him in the table after 11 games. And interestingly, we've been put into a Champions League group alongside them with Green Buffaloes from Zambia and USM Algier from Algeria. We have 4 group stage games close together, and we got off to a great start by beating Algier 4-2 at home. Then we earned a spectacular 3-0 win against rivals Wydad Casablanca at their place, and Green Buffaloes were easy to beat as we ran away 5-1 winners. But after taking the lead against Wydad Casablanca at our place, they then scored twice past us to win the tie. However, it puts us in control of the group with 2 games to play. Now, I've only got a 2-year contract at the club, which expires at the end of this season. And given that things are going pretty well and a better job might not come available for a few seasons, I committed to a new 3-year contract. Although I did only want to do 2 years, they forced me to sign 3. The only downside to this is it's going to make it a lot harder for clubs to buy me out of my contract if I want to move teams. We also need to improve at every opportunity we get. So we managed to sign centre-back Marvel on a free transfer after he left Real Madrid in the summer. We did try to sign him in summer, but back then he wanted £4,000 to £5,000 a week in wages. Now he's settled for £1,700. He helped us beat Algier 5-0 away from home, and then round off the Champions League group stage with a 3-0 win over Green Buffaloes, meaning we top our group to progress with Wydad Casablanca. who we also beat 3-0 away from home in the league in another dominant display. However, we couldn't quite keep the perfect record, so we still sat 2 points behind Wydad Casablanca just over halfway through the season. But now we need to focus up on our Champions League quarter-final as we take on Al Ahly from Egypt. At their place, we struck first through right winger Farah, but just before half-time, Al Ahly equalised. In the second half, Kafi scored an incredible direct free kick, only for Al Ahly to score again. Then, they got the winner in the 99th minute from a corner to take the first leg. However, at our place, we took an early lead after some nice one-touch football and never looked back, capitalising on a defensive error to score a second, squeezing between two defenders for a third goal, and then a mazy dribble got us the fourth of the evening. Al Ahly did get a consolation goal, but it wasn't enough. We're going to the semi-finals to play reigning champions Zamalek. We stormed into a 2-goal lead thanks to Kafi picking up a brace inside of 25 minutes, but Zamalek grew into the game and scored 2 of their own in the second half to bring the scores level. But in the 92nd minute, goal line technology dubiously awarded us a winner, meaning we take the advantage from the first leg. However, in the second leg, Zamalek beat us 1-0, meaning we have to go to extra time. Or not. It turns out Africa still use away goals, so by that logic, we'd won the tie and we are going to the final where we're taking on our big rivals in Wydad Casablanca. And thanks to some incredible form in the league, we hadn't lost a game. So we'd overtaken our rivals to the top spot. So this Champions League final is a huge grudge match. Or matches, because the Champions League final in Africa is held over 2 legs home and away. And we had the first leg, but it was Wydad Casablanca who scored first. However, we managed to score twice just before halftime to head into the break 2-1 up. We started the second half electrically, scoring a third and then a fourth goal at the start of the half. But once again, as is typical, we capitulated late in the game as Wydad Casablanca scored 2 of their own. At least we came away 4-3 winners from the first leg. So heading to their place for the second leg, all we need to do is avoid defeat or get a draw, and we're going to be winners of the Champions League. The game was very cagey for the first 25 minutes, but the first real chance came Wydad's way, as our defender brought down their striker in the area and a penalty was awarded. But our keeper Mirbar made himself big and saved the penalty to keep us in front, but moments later, they did find a way past him from a free kick routine. As it stands right now, we'd lose the final on away goals. Worse still, at half-time, we hadn't even registered a single shot in the game. So I thrashed my arms, told them I wasn't happy, and sent them back out there, where we immediately scored to put ourselves back in front on aggregate. Then a few minutes later, our star man Kafi decided to run from the edge of the centre circle to the 6-yard area and score a goal to give us a 6-4 lead. 2 shots on target, 2 goals. However, Wydad Casablanca kept having chances and forced our keeper into some huge saves. But eventually, the goal came to make it 2-2 on the night with 25 minutes to go. Despite conceding 2 goals, Mirbar was my man of the match with the amount of high-quality saves he was making. And it paid off, as 10 minutes from time, we found acres of room down the right-hand side of our attack and scored a 3rd goal. With the clock ticking down into the 90th minute, Wydad threw everything they could, coming forward and scoring another goal. If they get one more, they win the Champions League. If we can hold them off, we win the Champions League. The final few seconds of the game was agony, but our defense held strong. We had done the impossible and won the African Champions League to complete the first step of the Pentagon Challenge. But the season isn't over there. With 1 game to go in the league, we are level on points with our big rivals. Can we do the double? Well, we scored 3 times past MAS Fez, who were the relegated side that didn't even give me a job interview when we applied to them and Tangier at the same time. Those 3 goals were enough for us to win the match and the club's second ever league title. I'll be honest, how quickly we've been able to finish the African leg was completely not expected, and I think we got very lucky. First of all, we got very lucky that Tangier's old manager retired, and they thought we were the best choice for the job. Then the fact we're in one of Africa's best leagues in Season 2 massively helped us. And then we got so lucky that pretty much every single team above us in the table in Season 2 capitulated right at the end for us to even finish in second place to be in this season's Champions League. My plan was to always move to one of Egypt's best teams because they just have more money and better players, and it's why I hinted so heavily throughout the video that's what I was going to do. But in the end, we didn't need to, because we did it with Tangier. However, the other confederations aren't going to be quite so easy. So much so, putting all of the Pentagon challenge into one video would make it far too long. So we're going to do it as a mini series. 5 episodes for the 5 different confederations. So make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of those episodes to keep up with the journey and see if we can complete the Pentagon challenge.